The battle at the Starcourt Mall took place barely 6 months ago. The kids evolve, grow up, and choose different routes. Lucas now plays basketball for Hawkins High School. Max has broken up with him and is struggling with the fallout from the death of her stepbrother Billy. Mike and Dustin have joined the Hellfire Club, a Dungeons & Dragons-themed band. Nancy is featured in the school newspaper and is preparing to begin classes at Emerson College in the fall. Stranger Things fans have known since earlier this year that Season 4 will be split into 2 chapters, but it wasn't until recently that it was revealed that Volume 1 would have 7 episodes and Volume 2 would contain the last 2. Rather than splitting the season in half, the events of Episode 7 include some important revelations and implications, making it feel more like a mid-season finale than an episode released so close to the season finale. We're here to break down some of the greatest narrative reveals that come later in this volume, now that the first 7 episodes are available on Netflix. What happened to Hopper David Harbour? After his presumably fatal sacrifice in Season 3 has been a source of concern for fans for nearly 3 years. Hopper was transferred to Russia and taken as a prisoner, as hinted at in a post-credits sequence and confirmed in trailers. In addition, the post-credits scene showed that Russia held a Demogorgon in captivity. Over the course of the season, Hopper devises a scheme to flee, but after a brief period of freedom, he is apprehended and returned to prison to fight the Demogorgon, which is kept alive by eating captives. Hopper's battle with the beast occurs just as Joyce, Winona Ryder, and Murray, Brett Gelman, arrive to assist in his rescue, as he manages to gravely damage the beast and reunite with the duo. 11. Millie Bobby Brown tries to reclaim her seemingly lost powers as the rest of the Hawkins gang tries to figure out who the terrible Vecna is who has been murdering teenagers. Dr. Owens, Paul Reiser, and Dr. Brenner, Matthew Modine, wind up partnering with 11 to employ isolation equipment to try to uncover lost pieces of her background. She is able to reclaim her telekinetic abilities throughout this procedure, which also leads to the learning of Vecna's origins. Vecna possessed abilities comparable to 11's, but she had a hate for humanity since she was a child. He used his abilities to murder his mother and sister, with his father bearing the brunt of the blame. Following his crimes, Vecna, born Henry Creel, was hospitalized and became Dr. Brenner's first patient, gaining the moniker 1. Henry received his 001 tattoo, similar to 11's, as a result of this. As the young 11 realized his nefarious motives, the two battled in a fierce showdown, with one appearing to be killed but instead being banished to the Upside Down. The first gateway to the Upside Down opened as a result of this, and a Demogorgon escaped through it in the first season. One emotionally and physically evolved into the horrible entity known as Vecna after spending years in the Upside Down, and he clearly still has contempt for humanity. Nancy, Natalia Dyer, uses her journalism abilities to try to solve the killings in Hawkins. She learns about Victor Creel, Robert Englund, a man who was incarcerated at the Penhurst Mental Hospital for supposedly murdering his family in the 1950s. She and Robin, Maya Hawke, travel to the asylum to talk to him because she thinks he could know anything about what's going on in Hawkins right now. Creel recalls what happened to him and his family during their conversation, noting that his son Henry was a sensitive child. Henry went into a coma after his wife and daughter were killed that tragic night. What happened to Henry after that is kept a secret by Creel. As 11 begins to recall her time in the Rainbow Room, she recalls meeting Peter Ballard and orderly Jamie Campbell Bower. In her memories, he is friendly to her, and they even devise a plot to escape Hawkins' lab together. When Peter comes up with concrete methods for 11 to depart, he admits that he will never be able to since he wears a tracking chip around his neck. 11 chooses to assist him because he has been so kind to her, and she uses her abilities to remove the chip. When 11 hears screaming and sees blood all over the corridor and chambers, their escape plan is in full swing. Everyone else is dead, including Dr. Brenner, who is sprawled out on the floor. She enters the Rainbow Room and encounters the orderly, who turns out to be the offender. The sequence from the Season 4 opener that suggested 11 was the one who killed everyone has now been clarified, as we learn that Peter was the one who killed everyone. 11 begins to explain when she enters the Rainbow Room and sees everything the orderly has done. As a result, we get a real-time scene of Nancy stuck in the Upside Down and accosted by Vecna. She enters the Creel house and begins her quest for information, just as Peter is speaking with 11. We find that he is Victor Creel's son, Henry, through a flashback in Peter's narration. He was alone and felt different when his family moved into the house in the 1950s. He became preoccupied with spiders he discovered in the house and realized he preferred them to humans, whom he saw as pests. He despised all of life's norms and rituals and desired something greater. He desired to restore equilibrium to the world that he had discovered to be so unbalanced. He aspired to be a predator for the greater good. Peter began by using his abilities to enter the brains of animals. He then moved on to his parents, attempting to show them who they truly were, but his mother quickly realized something was wrong. He decided to kill her because she summoned a doctor to check him. He became stronger with each life he took. But as a child, he was damaged by his powers, and he nearly died himself when he slaughtered the rest of his family. That's how he ended up in a coma. Peter awoke in a coma to a very inquisitive Dr. Brenner, who abducted him after he killed his parents and sister. Dr. Brenner decided to make more of Peter after realizing he couldn't control him, which is why he began experimenting on youngsters. Brenner's program ranked Peter first. We finally figured out how it all began. Peter invites Eleven to join him so they can reshape the world together, according to Eleven's memories. She, predictably, says no and then uses her powers to throw him against the wall. Eleven begins to recall her sad and enraged experiences, such as being mistreated at the lab and having her mother taken away from her. As we witness Elle begin to levitate, Peter regains control and almost kills her. She is able to use her powers, and she nearly kills him before opening a portal to the Upside Down and throwing him in. As thunder and lightning strike Peter, he is hurled into the Upside Down and completely transforms into Vecna. The camera zooms in on his wrist as the episode finishes, revealing the 001 tattoo. If you didn't previously know, this indicates he's number 1. This is a massive reveal that begins in the first episode with a flashback of Eleven in the Rainbow Room. This implies that the season's villain, like Eleven, was once a Dr. Brenner experiment, and that the Upside Down has the ability to transform humans into supernatural beings. We also learn how Elle opened the portal to the Upside Down, which kicked off the events of Season 1 prior to Will's abduction. Is it possible that Eleven invented the Upside Down? I don't believe so, but after viewing this episode, viewers will undoubtedly ask this question. The Season 4 Volume 1 finale is crucial, and it's perhaps the best finale we've seen from Stranger Things thus far, except from the Season 3 finale, which is my personal favorite, due to its emotional impact. While there are still a number of unanswered questions, the Season 4, Volume 1 conclusion provided some satisfying answers.